and welcome to another Battle Games in Middle-earth painting tutorial. I return now to a comment from a video a year ago. I painted Gimli and an evil genius wanted to see me doing a tutorial for some Dwarven warriors. It may have taken a year, but I am listening. So here it is, my guide to painting a Khazad Guard. Starting on a black undercoat with some sand on the base, I dry brushed everything with Chainmail or Ironbreaker. This is no minor layer. Dwarves minor? I'll work on my puns. I'll work on them. This is just indiscriminate dry brushing though, so it's pretty major in terms of coverage over the model. Then I follow that with a heavy wash of gloss Nuln oil. Keep that shine in there with the gloss version of Nuln oil. And oh, by the way, if you have any questions about any of the steps, just axe by commenting below. I'll keep trying with the puns. Now, onto the main colour here, I use Regal or Kantor blue on the cloth. I like the idea of blue for dwarves. It just feels like, say, regal and mighty for some reason. No idea why. These Khazad Guard models are great for this as well. There's a perfect balance, I find, of armour and cloth to have fun with. Oh, and don't forget the sleeveys when you're painting these material bits. Next, onto the gold bits with my favourite paint, Retributor Armour. Now, with this, I was careful not to overdo it on gold in terms of which bits of metal to paint. I like the idea that there is definitely gold on the Khazad Guard, mainly because they're the elites, so they'd probably have some nice gear, and gold isn't quite as nice as mithril anyway. So, but mainly, it's really important, I think, in this model, just to have some extra colour to break up all the silver and blue. Otherwise, the palette just ends up looking a bit too cool, and cool here in a bad way. So on this gold, I mixed it up so that no two guards were the same, even though I used the exact same colours on them all. It's little things like this which really help to add variety, especially when you've got a lot of the same pose, which I think there are quite a few common poses of Khazad Guard which are easier to come by than others. Now some dwarf flesh, of which there is very little. I poke a little Talon flesh into the eye holes, and basically that's done. Now, I imagine dwarves challenge people to duels regularly, and for that, they need to be able to take off a leather glove and shout, "I challenge you to a duel!" For those gloves, I use Snakebite leather or Balor brown. I also do the belt and other leather in that as well. On the gloves, just make sure you avoid the little metal plate protecting the hands. It's a nice detail that, so you don't miss it because you don't want to cover that up. Now, with an unpronounceable orange paint, I paint a traditional dwarven ginger hair. Great stereotype I've chosen there. But dwarves just feel very Celtic or Viking to me, so I like blondes and gingers. And also, just be careful here not to miss any of the hair. On a lot of the poses, there's hair and beard folding around the axes and the corners of the hair, it's sort of sweeping back, so just make sure you get all of it. Now, a lovely all-purpose wash of Reikland Fleshshade. That goes over all the gold, the leather, into the old eye holes. And you could do that on the hair as well if you wanted a darker ginger, maybe to vary it up with different oranges you've got. But I wanted the contrast between the blue and orange to be quite cartoony and bright. So it's Fuegan orange as a wash here on the hair for me. And then I let both those washes dry. While that's happening, I use my ever-dwindling supply of Scorched brown to paint the haft of the axe. You don't have to use Scorched brown, you can use Rhinox hide. And while you're in hysterics at that fine pun, I'll remind you about the axe on his belt. Don't forget that one. Next, I do a bit of mixing, because I don't have enough blue, basically, different shades of blue. You could use Altdorf blue, and with that, highlight. You can see here in real time, it's a very directed kind of stroke I use. It's a wet dry brush, which I suppose is a wet brush, or just a brush. So rather than rubbing paint off the brush like a dry brush, you load the brush up and carefully apply it so it only lands on the raised areas. I think it works really well on cloth like this. Now, back to the hair with some fiery orange. I like this colour. It's kind of like a chalky orange. I'm not sure Fire Dragon Bright is like that, so maybe add a bit of wine or bone to it to make it look less bright. I just feel it feels a bit appropriate to highlight it with sort of lighter, chalkier orange for the aging dwarf's ginger beard. Back to the gold now, with some of the shine which has gone because of that earlier wash, so get your Brasso out, or just re-highlight it with Retributor armour. Now we're nearing completion of our vertically challenged friend, so using lightning blue I did that final edge highlight of the blue fatigues. Here it's just taking your time really and making sure that the paint isn't too thick. The model is beautifully nice to highlight, so just if you're careful, it's not too hard to do this and make it look great. Now with a mix of bleached bone and Snakebite leather, that's Balor brown, and bleached bone I think is just something bone, I don't know what it's called, I go back to those gloves and straps to just pick out the detail. I dry brush the gloves, a light dry brush, but I always choose an edge of the belt or straps and just neatly draw a line on top of that to highlight those. Now we're nearly there, a slightly dusty edge highlight of the graveyard earth on the hafts of the axis should do the job. Then it's just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but mostly just dotting the I's, if you can even see them. To be fair, with a Khazad Guard, it's probably not worth doing at all because of the helmet kind of in the way, you won't really see it. But I always do white and black anyway. Then it's a simple dry brush of the sandy base that you painted black earlier, grey and white, then you're done. If you have any spare bits like chain or little tools, like I've got some little plastic hammers from Age of Sigmar, you could use them and scatter them on the base, but they're far from essential. Maybe even a goblin head. But other than that, we're done. And thanks again to Evil Genius who requested it. I really hope you haven't been sitting on your dwarf army for the whole year waiting for this painting tutorial, but either way I hope it's helped and been an enjoyable watch. Until next time, thanks for watching.